General David Petraeus, former CIA director and Afghanistan commander, joins me now. What can we do to make sure Zelensky stays alive as long as possible, General?
Well, what I'm very confident that we are doing, Jesse, and I thought that was a terrific clip, and calling him Churchillian and so forth is absolutely correct. But we have agencies and departments that exist to collect intelligence from all different sources and using all different methods. And I am absolutely confident that all of those are being exploited, fused, and provided to our Ukrainian partners. It is in the interest of the entire world that Zelensky stay alive. Thankfully, it's his security service that, as you noted, foiled the plot of the Chechens who were sent to assassinate him. We know from reports of those who have met with him that just to get to him appropriately requires changing vehicles, putting hoods over one's head, being very unclear about where one is, and then only then does the president appear. That he's moving regularly, of course, in bunkers a good bit of the time, and so forth. So I think, again, not only does he, not only do we, and not only do his people recognize that importance. Again, I do think that other agencies around the world are also doing the same thing. We always work together with our intelligence partners, our defense partners, and I'm sure that that is the case in this situation.
That gives me great confidence for you to share that here on Jesse Watters Prime Time. Do you believe that the window is closing for the West to get weapons to the Ukrainians? We're hearing reports that 5 cities are surrounded. The circle's closing in on the capital. When is it over where we can't get any more weapons in? And do we have a strategy to fix that?
Well, again, I'm also confident that we can get weapons in. The question really is, can we get them to Kyiv? Can we get them to Kharkiv? Can we get them to the cities in the south that are essentially under siege already? We can still do that. I'm fairly confident. Again, what we're doing is flying the weapons in as close to Ukraine as we can, then transloading them and getting them into the country. The lines of communication through Lviv are still very solid. You can still push well into the country from there. Again, how long you can do that, I'm not sure. It obviously depends on the success of the Russians trying to encircle Kyiv and eventually really laying siege to Kyiv, because it's very clear that they're unable to achieve the kinds of combined arms effects of infantry, armor, artillery, engineers all together with air assets integrated with that in the way you would normally want to enter a city and attack those areas and only those areas that are the source of the resistance. Instead, what they're doing, of course, is just indiscriminately shooting missiles and rockets and artillery into these cities, enormous salvos of them already, killing innocent civilians. And as your piece also noted, again, I think that Putin clearly has crossed the line to become a war criminal. There was a moment in my career, a year actually, when I was a one-star general and assigned to Bosnia, where in addition to the NATO job that I had, I was also part of a clandestine joint task force of the U.S., of all the different agencies, intelligence services, and special mission units, tracing down and detaining war criminals and sending them to The Hague for the International Criminal Court to deal with them. I suspect that they are already looking at what kind of charges could be brought against him. There's clearly a number of those, and certainly against the commanders who are part of this as well.
So worst case scenario, the Russians do encircle the capital and they shell the hell out of it, and they insert teams of people to go hunt the president down, and innocent people are being slaughtered, and it's just war crime after war crime. And this is going to be on television. It's going to be in everybody's iPhone all over the globe. I know they're not a NATO ally. What kind of pressure is going to build for the West to do something more than we've been doing right now?
Well, I'm sure it will be considerable. And I think you raised something that is very, very important here. The Russians have done this before. It's well known what they did to Grozny and when they were fighting in Chechnya. and also what they did in Aleppo in Syria. Again, when they met resistance that they couldn't deal with the way normal military forces would, they basically, quote, depopulate the city, destroy it to save it. That is what they did in those two cases. In those cases, however, you didn't have the media of the world focused on it. They were able to control those battlefields much more than they obviously can contain Ukraine. Ukraine has many, many journalists from all different countries of the world, and there will be enormous pressure on countries to take additional measures. I do think that some of the economic measures that have taken are so draconian that it literally could be a race between how quickly the economy just collapses in certain respects. You know, the fact that the central bank's reserves, of which they were very proud, they're foreign reserves. They are in foreign banks, and they're now all frozen. The fact that they can't even open their stock exchange for fear that it will completely plummet. They are on the precipice of very, very dire situation in their financial and economic markets. And again, they are going to be in a serious world of hurt in that regard, even as they are trying to, again, lay siege to Kyiv and also to Kharkiv are the two that are most important. But it's all really about the Zelensky government ejecting it, displacing it, killing it, and replacing it with a pro-Russian regime.
That timeline is quicker than I had imagined. That's definitely interesting. Real quick before we let you go, General, the tests, the nuke test that we put off in order to calm things down, was that a smart move for the Biden administration, or would you have gone forward with it?
I have no doubt about the readiness of our intercontinental ballistic missiles, our submarine-launched ballistic missiles, and our strategic bomber force that would also bring nuclear weapons to bear. Nor should anyone else have any doubts about that. That's a purely symbolic action. I think trying to show that this whole ratcheting up of the nuclear chain is something that we're not going to participate in. This is not going to be a poker game in which we see them and raise them one, and it goes back and forth in DEFCON levels. So I have no qualms about that.
All right. Thank you very much, General David Petraeus.
Pleasure to be with you, Jesse. Thanks.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.